Welcome to another episode of Theater Corner. I'm your host, Michael Taylor. Theater Corner is an interview series created as an ongoing effort to promote more diverse interest and involvement in theater scene. This program is made possible through a partnership with the Old Globe in San Diego, California. So silence your cell phone, folks. You're about to enter Theater Corner. Maurice Decaul is a former Marine, a poet, essayist, and playwright, whose writings have been featured in the New York Times, the Daily Beast, Sierra Magazine, American Theater, Callaloo, Narrative, and others. His poems have been translated into French and Arabic, and his theatrical works, Holding It Down and Sleep Songs, collaborations with composer Vijay Iyer and poet Mike Ladd, have been produced and performed at New York City's Harlem Stage, Washington, D.C.'s Atlas Intersections Festival, and Paris and Antwerp. His play, Between the Tigris and the Euphrates, was produced in New York City by Poetic Theater Productions in the winter of 2015. He is a graduate of Columbia University and New York University with degrees in creative writing. He's currently working towards his MFA and playwriting at Brown University. And so we have it. Thank you very much, Maurice Decaul, for stopping by Theater Corner and joining us. You're very welcome to be here.
Thank you.
I want to start with a great fun fact for our viewers. Both Maurice and I are Marines. We both served in active duty in the Marine Corps. And secondly, as I mentioned, Maurice graduated from Columbia University. And we were both studying at Columbia University at the same time.
Yes.
Go Lions! Okay, and I think it's possible they still haven't won a game yet.
When we were leaving, they had not won it.
Okay, but they have the smartest football team in the country.
They probably do.
As I mentioned, so right now you are the very first artist in residence at TCG, and yes. TCG is the Theater Communications Group in New York City. Could you tell us a little bit about TCG and about your position there as artist in residence?
Sure. So TCG stands for Theater Communications Group, and TCG is the National Service Organization for the American Theater. So right now we have over 700 member theaters. The Old Globe is a member theater. I am the first artist in residence at TCG, and my role, it's not really a job, it's more of a residency. What we're doing is we're building what we're calling the Veterans in Theater Institute. Essentially what we're trying to do is make theater more accessible to military and veterans communities, bringing vets into theater as writers, as technicians working behind the scenes, maybe as directors, maybe as actors, whatever is of interest to them. So that's my role there, is developing this program over three-year period of time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now I do remember when we were at Columbia, you were teaching a writers group for veterans in Manhattan at that time.
Yeah, correct. So I started writing at NYU 2009. They have a veterans writing program there. I ended up teaching that later when I got my graduate degree at NYU. But at Columbia, what we were able to do is take NYU's model, because it was great, and bring it to Columbia and start one at Columbia for the veterans on campus at Columbia. So that was, I think, around 2010. I didn't teach that one, but we did get it up and going. Okay. And I taught the one at NYU.
It was a cool thing.
Yeah, it was great.
TCG is in Manhattan. It's in New York City, where it's cold.
It is very cold.
You are now in San Diego, California, where it's warm. So other than the obvious reason for a break in the weather, what are you doing here in San Diego right now?
Okay, so, I mean, it is beautiful here in San Diego. I can see why people move here and never go back east.
Right.
But besides the weather and the seals, because I'm staying where there are a lot of seals and you can see them in the morning and smell them. But besides that, over at La Jolla Playhouse, we're building our third site for the Veterans in Theater Institute. So the first one is located in Providence, Rhode Island, which is where I spend half of my week. Providence, we partner with Trinity Rep Company and Brown University and Providence Community Libraries to teach playwriting to veterans, and also we're starting up a technical theater program there as well. So
Okay.
the first person in that class is learning lights. That's what she's interested in. Our second site is in North Carolina, Cape Fear Regional Theater. It's in Fayetteville. So we're working with the theater and 2 local universities, Fayetteville State University and Methodist College. And what we're doing there is, again, teaching vets, but also I think teaching a lot of active duty Army folks how to write plays, right?
Yeah.
It's actually kind of fun.
How about that idea? That's awesome.
It is great. So our third site is here in San Diego at La Jolla. So out for the next few days, getting that up and going, we're teaching our first class this weekend, this Sunday, and that's going to run. It's going to run for about 3 months, and then I'll be back in San Diego for the culminating class. Yeah. And in San Diego, we're doing a writing workshop, playwriting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a solid reason to be here
Oh,
in San Diego.
Yeah, it's any reason to get out to San Diego is a reason. So.
And as everyone knows, diversity and inclusion is a salient topic right now in the arts world, and specifically in the theater world. You know, and I also understand that TCG they've written a next 50-year plan. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And what do you think about diversity and inclusion and theater in the theater world?
Sure. So I think, you know, in terms of getting people into the theater, building audiences, right? I think people come to the theater if they see themselves represented, if they see themselves on stage, if they see their families on stage, if they see their stories on stage, if they see their histories on stage, they'll come. I think if you want to build audiences, and this ties back into the work that we were doing in terms of veterans audiences, is you've got to invite people in. They've got to see themselves as audiences. They have to be comfortable being in the space. So I think that's something that we have to be aware of when we are thinking about ED&I work, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Just making, in terms of planning and programming, what are we putting on stage? Who are the audiences that we're inviting into the theater? Also, I think another way that, you know, we need to be thinking about this is not just the audiences who are sitting in the seats. I think that's very important, but it's not the only thing. And not only the plays that are being presented on stage or produced, who's actually running the theaters? You know, who are the staff? Who are the artistic directors, and who are the managing directors? Who are the people, and of course the staff.
Correct.
Who are the people actually running the theaters? So in terms of outreach and ED&I work, I think it's a full spectrum. If you want to involve people of diverse communities, they have to be represented on stage, to be represented in the theater itself, in the infrastructure.
Right.
And then I think once people see that, they might be more willing to come.
Oh, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
Do you have a particular thing that you would say to, let's say, someone that looked like me and you, as a potential black theater goer?
Yeah.
What would you say to them, let's say, if they were considering going to see a Shakespearean play?
Oh, that's interesting that you bring up Shakespeare. And I'm going to think about New York for a minute here, and BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Right.
Last, say maybe 2 years ago, the Royal Shakespeare Company came to New York. They did a tour of Caesar, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because they set Caesar in East Africa using black actors who were mostly Englishmen, but black actors from England. And a play like that, which was written about Julius Caesar, however many, you know, Shakespeare, several hundred years ago, was still relevant. It still made sense. The way that the dramaturgy worked, the way that the story was then developed. Caesar was a despot somewhere in East Africa, right? Their Caesar. It still resonated, still made sense. I think one can find oneself in theater. It's broad enough, right? One can see oneself represented, even if the play, for example, Caesar, wasn't necessarily written about a despot in East Africa. The way that it was presented, the dramaturgy made sense. So all that to say, theater is wide enough and broad enough for telling human stories, and I think we can connect as human beings across these things that divide us, so race and ethnicity, et cetera. We can still connect as human beings. I think theater gives us the opportunity to do that. With that being said, I think that people also want to see themselves on stage. I think it's, you know, if one sees one's literal own story on stage or something resembling one's family or one's upbringing, it might be a more welcoming space, if that makes sense.
So, what is Maurice Decaul doing in the future? What does that look like?
Well, there's some really exciting things that are happening. Again, with our veterans program, we'll be opening our 4th site. It's a pilot, the 4th pilot site, later this year at Arizona State University. So we're excited about that. And personally, I'm going to say about 2 days ago, got asked by Syracuse Stage if I would be their playwright in residence for a new festival that they're developing. That would be in the spring of 2018. It's called Cold Read, a festival of hot new plays.
Ah,
it's a great title.
Hooray for Maurice Decaul.
So I'm excited about that. So,
yes, that's beautiful.
Working on some new plays with them at Syracuse.
Okay. Yeah. And anything else we can look out for coming from Maurice Decaul? Any new plays you're writing? Or?
There's always new plays, right? I'm in the very beginning process of writing a new play about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
I'm excited about that. It's a lot of work, a lot of research. So hopefully I'll be able to take a trip to Cuba over the summer to begin that research.
All right.
But you know, it's an interesting topic, right? The United States and the Soviet Union at a point in history where we were 48 hours away from launching nuclear weapons at each other. The United States did not know that we were 48 hours away from that, but we were. And we did not do that. So I'm curious about that time and those individuals involved. And also, I think more interested in the people who were on the island when all this was going down in 1962.
All right.
Yeah.
Always the artist, always the scholar.
Yes.
And always a friend. I really appreciate you. I love you, brother. Thank you for coming by Theater Corner.
Of course.
And thank you, audience, for joining us here at Theater Corner, and we'll see you next time.